everybody, and welcome along to the latest webinar with me, Andrew Dawkins, and
myself, Rachel Blackhall.
It's lovely to have you all with us today, and hope you've had a very enjoyable summer and you're all in good health.
It's been a while since we've last done one of these webinars, so good to catch up with everybody.
And we're not in the usual Falkirk office today.
We're not,
No, we paid that
secret
extra.
location today.
Yeah, so it was the beer delivery at the last webinar. Caused a few noises outside our control, but boy, it was tasty. So what are we doing today, Rachel?
So the agenda for today is we'll catch up on what's been happening at A.R.D. over the summer, what we've been doing here, and then over to you for the usual market updates. Tell us what's been happening around the world in investment markets over these past few months. We're also joined with a special guest, Nicole Newman from Finiston, Frankie and McWilliams. Is here to talk all about the importance of wills and power of attorneys. I think this seems like it's a very interesting topic because we have been inundated with questions so far. So as always though, if there's any questions for myself and Andrew that's investment related or anything else that you want to know about wills and power of attorneys, just pop it in the question box as we go along, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end and we'll try and cover off as much as we possibly can.
We certainly will. So we'll start with then what's been happening.
What's been happening at A.R.D? Well, I mean, dare I say it, I think we're returning to some sort of normality in the world aside from investment markets. I'll hand that one over to you, but certainly over the summer with a lot of clients enjoying holidays. We've had holidays ourselves, so it feels back to pre-pandemic times. So that's been lovely. And now that the schools are back, we've certainly had the usual pickup in activity. That's returned as normal. That seems very much how it was in years gone by. Nice quiet time over the summer holidays, and then right back into the swing of things.
Yes, I think so. I think that's it's nice to see after all this 2 years of nonsense. And also then Daniel.
Yes, so behind the scenes,
has been
we did go and get a new photo shoot and some updated pictures of the staff. So that's been updated on the website, and I believe he was sending it out across all the social media platforms with little stories about each and every one of us. I'm sure you've seen those.
Yes, he's still working for us, just at the moment.
But bringing it back to business, we were just trying to think of what's been topical. And one of these new requirements are the trust registration rules that have just been introduced. So for investment bonds based in UK, and I suppose offshore bonds are quite often registered in Ireland, there's now a new requirement for these all to be registered. Something that I think a lot of people thought there would have been a register of that sort of thing previously, but apparently not.
Now this just applies to investment trusts, so anybody with protection trusts, you may have some life assurance policy for the benefit of somebody else in the event of your death. These rules don't apply.
Yes, that's okay.
Money invested. Yeah,
so we've been helping our clients with the online systems. It's through Government Gateway.
Is that a joy?
It has its challenges. It's never an easy system to use, but we're getting there. But it is really important that it is registered, because over time, I think there is going to be a little bit of leeway, but over time they're going to be imposing penalties if these trusts aren't registered with the either UK or Irish authorities. So what we just want to really reiterate is we're happy to help if anybody has any trusts or act as a trustee for anything that we're not aware of. Please do just make sure that you're meeting the requirements. And as always, reach out to us if anybody needs any help. More than happy to help where we can.
I think if anybody has trusts that we don't know about, or know people that perhaps are trustees.
Yeah, I think spread the word. I'm not sure it's been entirely well publicised.
I don't think it has at all. I mean, now we're getting the training, but the training's been provided after the event has actually started.
It's come very late. Yes, it's sort of something that's been imposed, and we've not had a lot of time to sort of pick up with it. So just letting everybody know that this is a new requirement. Something else that's suppose, a slight change is the junior ISAs. We do actually get a lot of inquiries from people who are looking to put some money away for the benefit of their children or grandchildren. And it was quite a small market. The annual limit before, it was quite low. And I think for that reason, not a lot of the investment providers offered this type of product. I think cash accounts, yes, but in terms of an investment linked junior ISAs, there wasn't a lot of providers out there who had that offering. But as the limit is now increased to £9,000 for the current tax year, we are finding that there's more and more providers in the market. So we've sort of reached out to the people who had junior ISAs, but obviously anybody else who is thinking about it, there's a lot more choice now, and we can get a lot more investment funds and things to choose from. So again, as always, if anybody's interested in that, please let us know.
I think a good thing as well from the investment point of view is that most of the ISAs that were set up for kids are long term, that you can't get the money out until you're 18 under normal circumstances. So when we look at the long term investment potential, really you want to stay clear of cash.
Yes.
Because it languishes, and you want to make the most of your equity exposure. So therefore, having more equity providers to choose from is really a good thing for us. So yeah, positive. Okay, and then moving on.
Portfolios. Big job.
Wow, yeah. So as we've been mentioning, I think the last 2 or 3 months, we took the decision to hold off reviewing the portfolios until markets have normalised a wee bit. I'm not sure markets have normalised, but it's probably going to be into next year probably before they do that. However, what we've done is a bit of an emergency.
We thought, we'll have a look at things again. We didn't want to keep delaying it because, like you're saying, things are still so volatile.
Yeah, and I think there's 1 or 2 sectors where we've left as they are, but there is one change we'll tell you about. Probably put a special message.
Yes, we will indeed. So we'll cover that off in a separate webinar. We'll contact all clients just to explain the reasonings behind this. So keep your eyes peeled.
Lovely.
Oh, market update, Andrew. So here we go. Over to you. What's been happening in the world of investment markets?
That's good. Well, yes, I think one of the things with regards to the market is, as those of you who viewed our last market update for July probably spotted that at the end of that we said, well, actually July there's been a lot of bad news, but the markets went up considerably. And so it's probably going to be our luck that in August there'll probably be some good news and the markets will go down, and that's exactly what they did. So many reasons for this, but I think if we start looking around, so July was a great positive month, and probably the first positive month we had of the year, where we could see the investment returns from all the portfolios, and indeed many of the investment funds. So I know we centre a lot on our portfolios, but our investment funds are sort of wide and varied. We got some really good news last month, and then this month we've seen most of the portfolios fall in value, most of the funds fall in value, because really there was a meeting in a place called Jackson Hole, which is over in America. This guy, Jerome Powell, is, gosh, dear to me anyway, still in his job. But he delivered more doom and gloom, and oh my word. Well, considering he was the chief culprit who goes into this fiasco, and he was saying that they're going to have to start raising interest rates more aggressively, and doom and gloom end of world stuff. And yet, what's happening when we look at the world is that we're still actually spending quite considerable sums. The consumer confidence index in America in particular has gone up. So we're seeing actually an increased expenditure, and it's all because of this crazy lockdown that we went into. And again, I know we've been banging on about this for months now, but we had sort of the best part of 2 years of lockdown where people were prevented from spending as they would normally. And the consequence of that is now we've got a lot of cash in the world waiting to be spent. And the governments really need to recognise this. It's nothing to do with shortages, it's just we're demanding more. So we say, okay, as soon as the lockdown's finished, perhaps there may be family or friends we want to go and visit, perhaps family and friends we don't want to go and visit. But you get in your car or you go in your bus and go on a train, and that all demands fuel. And of course, what happens is the lockdowns ended virtually at the same time throughout the world, apart from China and 1 or 2 other crazy places. And so people use the energy at the time for going out and about, back into restaurants, etc., which have to be heated, lit, etc. So you just end up with paying more for your fuel because of the supply and demand. It's a supply and demand imbalance. And the other thing we've had for years now is the eco lobby, which is mighty fine and all the rest of it, but we have had then underinvestment in companies like Shell and BP, ExxonMobil, etc., whereby there hasn't been the production capabilities to be able to now switch on at a higher rate the excess oil and gas that we need, because of the fact that there hasn't been that investment. Because for years, with oil and gas being at such a low price, there was no pressure on companies to actually invest because they want to see a profit on it. So we're reaping really a lot of what we're seeing up the world. So gas, for example, here in Europe, in August, increased on the Dutch market, which is the biggest gas market in Europe, increased by over 22% in a month. That's crazy. The good thing is, though, now most of Europe is reporting that they've got actually good gas levels in storage tanks and facilities. So that this caused a little sort of price to come down a wee bit. Oil came down as well, although perhaps we don't notice that too much at the pumps because that's sort of a different story. So it's all a bit of a weird thing. But in America, as we know, the world's biggest economy by a mile, then consumer confidence is up, consumer expenditure is up. Biden, at long last, got the infrastructure and the eco planning bill through, which is pumping billions and billions of dollars into the American economy as well. So really good signs. Inflation looks like it might have peaked, which is good for them. So it's sort of really good signs there. And when we look at the companies reporting, because there's been a big reporting month in August for a lot of the major companies and a lot that we hold within the portfolios or within the funds that we use, then reporting figures were up. So when we look at some of the big companies, a lot of those profits were higher than these so-called experts had predicted. So it's contradicting what you normally may expect to see in a recessionary period, where you'd see results coming in below expectation, you'd see unemployment increasing, you'd see consumer demand falling away and consumer confidence disappearing as well. So it's a completely different world, and unfortunately, I don't think the policymakers have got a grip on this, because simply increasing interest rates, which is what they're now doing, and stopping this quantitative easing, printing cheap money, then it's probably going to have the adverse effect. It's going to actually make the situation worse. Because if you're trying to invest money, so if you're a company and you're wanting to expand, you go to your bank and say, I need to get into this new market. I've got so much demand for my products. And the bank says, well, I'll tell you what, Rachel, if you'd come back to me last year, I could have given you that money at 1% or 2%. But sorry, now you're going to have to pay 7% and it's going to get more expensive. You're like, well, I think I won't bother investing my money in expanding. So anyway, that's just my thought. In France, moving on to Europe, the French economy just escaped going into recession. The second largest economy in Europe. They've got this price cap on energy until the end of this year. Italy are thinking of doing that. They're going through the motions of putting in various price caps at the moment. It's only going to be a matter of time, I think, before the UK has to do this.
Just going to ask that. Do you think UK will?
Yeah, and I think it's got to be done, because simply it's very, very good for the economy. If you can get sort of gas and electricity prices down, then it means people then that would have spent that money on heating and lighting, etc., they've got money to spend elsewhere. And we know so much of the money we spend here goes to the Treasury and tax.
Yes.
So you've got VAT, you've got national insurance contributions, employers, national insurance contributions, income tax, excess duty, excise duty, etc., etc., etc. So if you can actually control that, the amount that you're paying for heating and lighting, then you make a success of it. So it actually brings more revenue in if you sort of do that. But it's probably something that they're going to have to do, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of people in a real pickle. But then we can hopefully get away from it being every headline on the news. Cost of living crisis, so we're going to have another news headline.
Well, talking about headlines, what's happening in Russia? That's been another one that's been dominating the headlines for quite some time.
Well, Russia's doing quite well, actually. The economy in Russia's sort of zooming ahead, and we should probably more invasions, well, obviously not, but the value of the rubles at an all-time high. The Russian government has got more money in foreign revenue than it has for many years now, buying yuan. It's buying the Chinese currency, it's buying Indian currency, Pakistani currency. It's going on a bit of a spending spree because it's making more for its gas and its oil. Long term, so we've transitioned away from that, and that's going to hit them hard. But the Russian impact has led undoubtedly to inflation, and has led to the likes of Germany, Italy, and Spain having to think long and hard about their long-term energy production, because relying on Russian oil and gas and oil from other parts of the world as well is perhaps not a very good strategy. Going over to China, so China's still embroiled in zero COVID policy, which then has led the likes of Apple to say it's going to be moving quite a bit of its production away from China to India, Taiwan, and other places there where, again, labour is cheap, but they've got good quality sort of workers there, they're well educated, etc. So this zero COVID policy really hits the world quite badly, because of the fact that if China's not able to sort of get the production out, then it hits the rest of the world, because a lot of the stuff we buy, as we know, comes from China one way or another. For the first time in many a year, the Chinese production levels fell in the last quarter, and it's driven as well by the fact that they have a bit of a property crisis there, with so many investors in property now getting their fingers burnt. And we've still got this issue about tech stock, what the Chinese government think about that, and listing on the US markets and various other things, together with a heat wave, which has left many parts of the country experiencing power blockages as the grid just simply can't cope. But the bigger one with China is, unfortunately, they still have, I think it's just less than 50% of the population inoculated against COVID. So therefore, if they open up in their eyes, they'll probably see mass levels of poorly people. And obviously the size of the Chinese population, it wouldn't be that good. But I think we're in a picture of doom and gloom. But when we look at the basics of it, then unemployment levels here in the UK and in the US are around about 3.5, 3.8% of the working population, which many people would regard as full employment. It's higher in the likes of France, 7%. It's about 3% in Germany. So there aren't the usual things that we would expect if we are going into a recession. But the difficulty is, because so many people talk us about this cost of living crisis, recession, etc., then it scares people. Yeah. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're actually going to get people feeling, oh, well, I won't do that investment, I won't make that purchase, because there was one of our clients the other week, I won't mention any names, but she was saying she had stopped putting money, she was going to buy a new car, but she was feeling the effects of all this doom and gloom talk, so she's not going to do that. Well, she's got more money than the last 5 people a normal lifetime, but yet she was worried about the cost of living crisis, and yet for her, it wasn't an issue at all.
Everybody's feeling it, and that's what we're hearing a lot of.
Yes, that's it. But I think
it does seem a lot of doom and gloom, doesn't it? But
yeah, it's short term.
Is there some good news out there?
Well, I think there's many sort of good news areas, especially about the company results, that we're seeing some good performance from many of the companies that we have indirect share ownership within. The other good thing is that it's never been a better time to invest. In the UK, for example, then markets fell by the highest level in August, which then means that some of the shares on offer through some of the British companies are really good value for money. Income multipliers of less than double digit, which is a fantastic news. So for long-term investors as we are, then it's very good for making money in years to come. The challenge we've got is just how long this sort of period of uncertainty and volatility will last for, and really we don't know that. But we just hope that the policy makers don't raise interest rates too much further, because that really could cause tremendous long-term harm. We need to keep cheap borrowing, because that then it helps to keep the world actually producing more. But just our opinion. Yeah. So there we are.
Thank you for that.
Anytime. So then what we will do is we shall just leave you with 1 or 2 comments now from Rachel about various companies that are within our portfolios.
Yeah, so of course this obviously doesn't apply to everybody, but we often do look at the top 10 holdings within our various portfolios, and we find that really a lot of them, they stick around. They might dip in and out over years, but they often stay there or thereabouts. So we picked 3 that are currently in the top 10 just to have a quick chat about, really, and because they see some positivity in the markets. 3 that are currently in the top 10 right now are Compass Group. So they're a British catering company, but they operate all around the world. And where they're seeing some good news is that people are obviously returning to workplaces with big canteens, or large scale events are happening again, because they actually released a statement saying that given the significant acceleration in growth, they're actually increasing their forecasted revenue guidance and operating margin for 2022. So they're seeing a bigger uptake than what they initially expected. So we see that as a good sign for the world in general, really. Things are hopefully getting back to what we say is normal. Another company that, again, we've spoken about in the past is CSL, and they're the Australian biotechnology company. So just last month, they completed the acquisition of a Swiss pharma company called Vifor, and that's their biggest purchase to date. What Vifor do is they actually specialise in kidney and liver disease. So they saw that as almost a complementary offering to what CSL already do. And the markets embrace this and see that the possible revenue opportunities are very, very positive. So hence they've been boosted back into the top 10 again. That's been very well received. And finally, we have Sage, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard this name before. They're a software company that specialise in accounting, HR, and payroll technology. Last month, they agreed that they would acquire a Seattle-based company called Lockstep. Having a look into it, they do a very similar type of thing over in America. Was more focused on just the accounting side, but really I think together, combine forces and develop more and more of this sort of technology for new people looking to perhaps start new ventures. So again, we're seeing that as a good sign that hopefully there's more demand out there. People are starting businesses and things are picking up. So hopefully we're going to see some good growth.
Great. Speaking of growth.
Well done.
What we'll do is we'll just put the performance chart on. So as you can see, for all the portfolios that we run here, they're all been fairly dismal in terms of returns. Many of them, though, are above average. So yeah, we've lost you money, but other people could have lost you even more. Just short term, of course. Then once we get to the 3 and 5 year periods, then we're making money, and the higher the equity component, I think, then the higher the end result. But it is a long-term investment. Markets are cyclical. They will bounce back, and they bounce back with a vengeance. We've seen this. We've been doing this for so many years now.
Yeah.
Rachel's 94 and I'm 106. And we sort of just dig in there. Make sure we're buying quality always, because as I've often said, if you buy a cheap coat, it keeps you warm and dry and looks the part, brilliant, you've done well. If you buy an expensive coat and it falls to bit and it doesn't keep you warm and dry, then you've bought rubbish. So it's investing in the good things, keeping it there for the long term, and we make money. And
we're back, and now we have Nicole.
We didn't say we were going away. I could have gone out and made a cup of tea.
We're just reshuffling the furniture there. So Nicole, thank you very much for joining us. This is a very topical area. I think, like I say, we've been inundated with questions about wills and power of attorneys. So what we'll do is I'll hand over to you, because you might actually cover this in your presentation anyway. But yeah, when we get to the end, then we'll see if there's anything else that we can help inform our clients about.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to start with a little introduction to Finiston, Frankie McWilliams Solicitors and how we can help you. I will then go on to discuss wills and the fundamental importance of having one put in place, and the main differences between testate and intestate succession. I will then move along to the issue of power of attorney and explain in more detail what a power of attorney is and how it may be essential for you to have one put in place. At FFM, we can help assist you with most of your legal needs and inquiries. We have teamed up today alongside A.R.D. Consultancy to offer a free will service to those who are in need. In the UK...
Did you say free?
Sorry?
Did you say free there, Nicole?
I did.
I think we just got viewers back now.
It is estimated that 30 million people do not have a will, as some find the process complicated and daunting. We at FFM are here to help make that process easier, and we are happy to talk you through the process and answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Who's that old chap there? Oh, yeah, old people are not doing wills, right? So just old people that should have wills, do you think, Nicole?
So firstly, it's far more convenient to have a will put in place.
Right.
If you have a will, then you can pass it, and you pass away. This is known as dying testate. But if you do not have a will put in place, this is known as dying intestate, and it makes the process far more difficult for your family members to handle your estate after your death. If you have a will put in place, you get to choose who you would like to leave your legacies to, rather than have them chosen for you. You can specify exact amounts and specific gifts and special gifts for your loved ones. You can even select some of your favourite charities. You would also have the option of selecting your own executors. These are the people that you would like to distribute your estate and who you trust the most. You would also have the opportunity to nominate guardians for any children under 16 years old. Being a parent myself, I understand, the extreme anxiety around this and making sure that the right people who you trust for your children are the ones nominated. And it's important for you to make the choice in that rather than having it made for you if you do not have a will put in place. Mm-hmm. Making a will give you total peace of mind. And if you change your mind in the future about any certain gifts or legacies or people you have chosen to be your executors, then you can come back to us at FFM and we can amend your will as you wish. A power of attorney is written authorisation which allows another person to represent or act on your behalf in your private affairs. These include financial matters, matters relating to your health and care. A power of attorney is a very important thing to have in place if you were to become incapacitated in future. A common misconception about power of attorney is that it is designed for the elderly. However, this is not always the case.
We got an old woman on there though.
There's also a young woman on that as well. So
is the old woman her power of attorney?
Yeah, that's what it may appear to be on the screen. However, we find at FFM that the best time to make a power of attorney is when you're young and capable enough to make the right decisions about who you want to, who you want to put in place. Everyone is under the impression that the best time to do that is when you're elderly and you need help with financial matters or matters surrounding your health and care, but rather it'd be better to do it, at our age. Yes. So that we can select who the best people are. When you're old, you may not be in the right frame of mind to make those choices. So everyone thinks they're designed for the elderly, when in fact they're probably best put in place when you're younger.
I like the way you looked at me when you were saying that. Nicole, I've always liked you. You're one of my favourite solicitors.
It is also a good idea to make a power of attorney. Yeah, so in the circumstances, to make it when you're young, and we at FFM can assist you with making a power of attorney. We can give you any guidance, information or support that you need in order to make the process a simple and pleasant one. Up on the screen are some of the areas that we specialise in at FFM Solicitors. If any of the information that we have provided you with today you would like to query on or would like more information, please contact a member of the A.R.D. Consultancy and they will pass on your information and we'll be in touch to assist you.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, like I say, we had a lot of questions in advance of this webinar, so let's just start. Let's get going. So the first one is, I have a will, but it's over 20 years old. Do I need a new one?
You can make a new will or change your will at any point. If your circumstances change, if you're happy with the terms of your current will, there is no need to change it. But we're always happy to make a review of your current will to take account of any changes in circumstances.
Okay, so there's been no change in law that you need to update your will about?
No, not at all.
No. So just because it's old, it doesn't mean to say it's wrong.
Yeah. Still valid? Okay.
Oh.
Go on, Andrew.
Gosh. Who chose these images, Nicole?
Right. Read the question out?
Yes, you read the question.
Oh, okay, right. My young eyes can see it. I just want to make a couple of changes to my will.
Excluding Rachel from my estate now.
Two of my grandchildren to be gifted a sum of money. Do I need a new will or can I amend my existing will?
So in this instance, you can either make a completely new will or alternatively, we can prepare a codicil, which will be attached to your existing will to take account of the changes.
Okay.
Codicil. That's just an amendment there, a PS. If you
Yes,
like.
it is. It's an amendment of a term within your will, a section within your will. Yes.
I suppose though, if somebody's getting a free will, then you may as well go the whole hog and just get the whole thing updated, would you? Or-
If you would prefer,
Yes.
we'll be happy to amend it as well.
Yeah, good. Ah, so that's better, isn't it?
Just because it says England.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I own a holiday home in England. Will this be covered by my Scottish will?
No. You would require to have a separate will prepared by an English solicitor to cover any heritable property in England.
Okay, so effectively you could have two wills, one for your Scottish
assets
right,
and your English assets.
What about Wales? That the same for Wales?
Yes,
Northern Ireland?
I would assume so.
Yeah, good. Overseas as well. I don't know if you've got an overseas asset, you'll need an overseas will.
Seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah.
You definitely do, yes.
Oh, talking about overseas, one of my
Did you know
power of
what I
attorneys, I didn't realise that, I was a bit slow off the mark there. Right, one of my power of attorneys has moved overseas. How easy is it to appoint a replacement and do I need to go through the whole process again?
It is a fairly straightforward process to appoint a replacement. However, we would require a meeting with a solicitor as they need to confirm that they still have capacity to make this change. So you'd have to make an appointment with a solicitor to confirm you still have capacity to make this change of your power of attorney.
Okay.
So you just do an amendment with the Office of the Public Guardian in Sunny Falkirk. But you don't need to wait years and years for the Office of the Public Guardian to respond and...
No. So I know that during COVID there was a delay in the process with the Office of the Public Guardian, but I'm hopeful now, as far as I'm aware, that we're getting a quicker response,
Okay.
a quicker turnaround.
Yeah. Someone told me you cannot write a child out of receiving part of an estate in Scotland. Is this right? And if so, what's the reason behind it?
Presumably your child, rather than a child.
Yes, I think that's the way it was intended.
There is no obligation for anyone to include their child or children as a beneficiary in their will. However, in Scotland, children do have legal rights to their parents' estates, and these come into effect whether there is a will or not. Legal rights include worldwide net movable estate, only of the deceased, and includes cash, shareholdings, personal effects, and furniture, cars, etc. Legal rights does not include heritable estate, such as lands and building. A legal right claim can be made only against the movable estate of the deceased. In the event the deceased left children, then the surviving spouse or civil partner are entitled to 1/3 of the deceased movable estate. If the deceased left no children or grandchildren, then the spouse is entitled to 1/2 of the deceased movable estate. If multiple children or grandchildren are left by the deceased and there is a surviving spouse or civil partner, then the children or grandchildren are entitled to a share of 1/3 of the deceased movable estate. And if there is no surviving spouse or civil partner, then the children or grandchildren are entitled to a share of 1/2 of the deceased movable estate.
Okay.
So that's quite important, isn't it? I think
As
you want to
indeed,
make sure that
yes.
your affairs are in order, make sure you've
Yeah.
you include those that you wish to benefit,
Yeah.
and have a will. Don't die without a will.
Yes, exactly.
Now there we go.
So this question is, one of my children has special needs and I wouldn't want them to get money on my death as they wouldn't be able to cope. Is there anything I can do?
Well, it would be possible to nominate a trustee to deal with any funds on behalf of your child with special needs. The same as some people like to do if, say, a beneficiary is under the age of 18, 21 years old.
Right.
So their share of the estate then will go to somebody else, and that somebody else, i.e. the trustee, would then administer that.
Yes, so
on behalf
you can appoint a trustee to act, or nominate a trustee to act on behalf of the child.
And you would just specify
Again,
that within the will.
And again, it's the person you choose and you trust most to, handle the financial affairs of your child with special needs.
So that can be quite useful if somebody's in receipt of state benefits, and they could be means tested. If you're a beneficiary under a trust, for example, then although you're getting a right to that money, you don't actually own that money until it's given to you by the trustee. So therefore, you can say, well, actually, I don't have any money. But then if the trustees wanted to give you some, which means that you wouldn't lose your means tested benefits, you can take that as and when. Yeah.
I suppose if there aren't any of these sort of scenarios that can make things a little bit more complicated, then how long on average does it take to wind up a non-complex estate if everything's clearly written in a will?
That really depends on how busy the court is with applications for confirmation at any given time. With current turnaround times with Glasgow Sheriff Court, it could be around 2 to 3 months.
Glasgow, we never know in Glasgow.
but every court differs.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. I want my pets to be looked after.
You do like a yellow jacket, don't you?
This question was not from me, but I approve. I want my pets to be looked after upon my death. Is there anything I can include within a will?
You can certainly include a clause in your will to set out your wishes. Are you happy with that, Rachel?
Yes, to be looked after.
So you can include a clause in your will, set out wishes as to who you would like to nominate to look after them after your death.
Okay. Well, one of the things that's a common misconception is on some of these crazy programs is that you can leave your money to your dog or your cat, and you can't. It needs to be a legal person, but you can leave it to a charity, for example. The dog's home, and then right, okay. Well, I think Rufus.
That's if you have a will in place. If you don't have a will in place and you have no children or a spouse or a civil partner or anything like that, then everything will go to the Crown. If you don't have any brothers or sisters, so that's why it's important. So there may be people out there who don't have a will in place, but maybe don't have any family. Maybe that's the reason why they don't have a will. It's because they have no one to leave it to.
Yeah.
So they can select their, nominate, their, their favourite charities or charities that they believe in or invest in.
And so those people, I know you did sort of touch on it about the testate and intestate. If somebody doesn't make a will, and I think a lot of people, they assume it will just pass to their spouse. Is that the case? And how long might it take? Or
it's a longer
happens?
process that you have to go through the court, so it can be very costly and very extensive. But the court will determine based on, so if it's their husband or things like that, they're usually heritable estate will pass to them.
I think people just assume, oh, it's fine, it'll all get sorted out. So really, it's just put something down in writing, however brief it is. Just make a
no matter how brief, just make sure that you've got a will in place. And it's also important to have both a will and a power of attorney.
Yeah.
One for, who's going to deal with your financial matters and the matters of your care.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, because we have a question about this, but we haven't put it on the screen there, that power of attorney is for when you're alive. Once you die, the power of attorney dies with you. The attorneys then have no other obligations because you're no longer there, and that's when the will kicks in.
Yes.
Just to make that clear. Excellent. Any other questions, Rachel?
not from me right now. I am conscious of time, but if there's anything that we've not covered, then we'll try and reach out to everybody and get them answered.
Yeah, and we'll be setting up our next webinar before the end of the year. So if you do have any topics you'd like including, then please let us know, because we are open to suggestions as long as they're broadcastable. Then that's good. Anything else to mention, Rachel?
I think just thank you everybody for joining in and listening today. I did want to make one special shout out to our regular listener who's having a very happy birthday, Mrs. Marion Lewis. So we hope you have a lovely day from everybody at A.R.D. and FFM.
Yeah, although no Google review yet, is there?
Still not, no.
Still not.
Keep asking, but
One day. Lovely. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
joining us
everybody.
today, and we look forward to meeting you
Thank
next week.
you.